Regime change. It's catching on. A brutal, inept, corrupt, obnoxious, despicable Marxist dictator has been removed from Minnesota. We'll give you all the details about Tim Walz, who is now donezo, thanks to citizen journalism. That's coming up in just a moment. And yes, we've got a Maduro update, but really we'll shoot it through the eyes of Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Marco's moment this weekend, and it was something else. Wait till you see him tear all of the Sunday show hosts new ones across the board. And finally, President Trump does a bit of a victory lap on his return flight from Mar-a-Lago. He was entertaining and informative and insightful on Air Force One, and we're going to show you all the highlights of that press conference coming up right now. I'm Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Please subscribe to this show, and if you'd really like to help us out, subscribe to the audio version. You can pick it up over on Apple and leave us a review. Leave us a rating, leave us a review, and subscribe there. It's a little thing, but when you do it, it really helps us quite a bit. And one other thing that will help us, tell us where you're watching from right now, where you're watching us around the world, and what time it is, because that'll help us track how many of you are watching and joining us at various times throughout the day. That helps us with our research, and while you're there, just subscribe to our channel, because you know you love it. You know you do. Did you know that U.S. life expectancy peaked at 78 years in 2014? Global life expectancy is declining for the first time in 30 years because people are aging faster than ever before. Now, this is due to more toxins in the air, chemicals in our soil and food, and other external factors that are new to us. What most people don't know is that we can actually fight aging on a cellular level. Scientists discovered that kimchi actually slows the aging process of human cells, helping protect them and delay aging at the cellular level. The power of nature can outweigh the power of pharmaceuticals without the nasty side effects. And now you can get all the benefits of kimchi in a simple capsule with Kimchi 1. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains plus antioxidants and enzymes that support your digestion, metabolism, and skin health from the inside out. As we age, we become more susceptible to microbial threats. Kimchi 1 is a natural antimicrobial, helping your body fight off harmful bacteria, viruses, and even toxins while boosting immunity and energy. And best of all, kimchi is 100% made in the USA, all natural and non-GMO. Support your gut, protect your cells, and feel younger every day with Kimchi 1 from Brightcore. Today, you can get an exclusive offer by going to mybrightcore.com/Larry. Just use the code Larry for 25% off your entire order. Or, for an even better deal, call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off your order and free shipping. Give them a call now. It's 888-462-4779. Kimchi 1. And now, I don't know about you, but I'm hungry for Korean barbecue. But instead, let's get right to the news out of Minnesota. Imagine if you watched CNN for the last couple of weeks and you basically didn't know anything about the corruption in the fraudulent government Tim Walz had set up there in Minneapolis. Imagine not knowing the incredible Nick Shirley citizen journalism viral video that showed all of these daycare centers and healthcare centers that were corrupt and just, sort of window dressing and fake little pop-ups where they were bilking the taxpayers of billions of dollars. Imagine watching CNN for the last couple of weeks and never knowing what's going on, not knowing the news. Well, CNN viewers today had to hear from the hosts on that channel that Tim Walz was not going to be running for re-election in Minnesota. And then they had to explain and speculate and say, gee, we're not sure why this is happening. We'll show you that remarkable clip in just a quick second. But first, here's how Fox News broke the story this morning as everyone was waking up to the extraordinary turn of events in the Gopher State.
Of St. Paul, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Tim Walz will not seek re-election as governor, and what a fall from grace this has been for him. You might recall in the spring of 2023, he pushed through several progressive ideas to the state legislature that caught the attention of Barack Obama, who went to Twitter to give his endorsement for the programs, which eventually caught the attention of people like Kamala Harris, who chose him to be her running mate as the vice president. introduced in Chicago at the convention in August of last year, a debate that was an absolute disaster with J.D. Vance at one point called himself a knucklehead. But after reportedly billions of dollars have been stolen from taxpayers, by way of the state of Minnesota, Tim Walz says he will not seek a third term. What a remarkable 2 years in the national spotlight has been for him, Dana.
And Walz hit Trump in his announcement. He said Donald Trump and his allies in Washington, in St. Paul, and online want to make our state a colder, meaner place. They want to poison our people against each other by attacking our neighbors. And ultimately, they want to take away much of what makes Minnesota the best place in America to raise a family. Now, okay, what else has been happening in this last month? Well, you have the discovery that there has been incredible amounts of fraud, and I think 98% of the people arrested are Somalis, who are immigrants there in the state that were taking COVID funds and basically and Medicaid funds and stealing them from the American people under his watch or his lack of watch. Now remember, Kamala Harris chooses him as the vice presidential choice partly because he couldn't conceivably upstage her. She says in her book that she didn't want to go with Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, who because he was Jewish. She actually says this, okay? And then she goes with Tim Walz, and he was a disaster from beginning to end. He also has a lot of confidence in himself, but I think that it was very clear to him after he had some discussions over the weekend that he would lose. He was a drag on the Democratic Party nationally, and the best thing that he could have done for the party, actually, and probably for him and his family, is to take this action today, which is to decide not to run for re-election.
Unbelievable, incredible turn of events, and well framed there by the folks at Fox News. So, yes, he was ostensibly one heartbeat away from the presidency if Kamala Harris had won the election last year, and now he's not resigning, but he's not running for re-election, even though he had his whole campaign apparatus in place. He had already announced that he was running for re-election, an unprecedented third consecutive term in Minnesota, and now he's deciding, yeah, maybe not. Last night he had a conversation with Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, and there's a lot of speculation right now that Senator Amy Klobuchar now might run for the governor's seat. And here's what it's all about. He was going to lose. This is the Democrat Party circling their wagons and saying, dude, you got to not run for re-election because you're going to get trounced or you're going to get indicted before you actually get a chance to run in November. And we can't let Republicans win in this state, which is still a chance, by the way. We can get to that a little bit later. But ultimately, they said, Timmy, you got to go. The party elders in Minnesota and in Washington, D.C. told Tim he's got to go. They're giving him the dignity of finishing up his term in this final year. But they're not letting him run for re-election because he is dragging down every Democrat around the country. This is the same guy they said was equipped to be president if, in fact, Kamala Harris had won and, God forbid, something happened to Kamala Harris. I mean, he was going to be one heartbeat away from the presidency. And now look where he is. And, yeah, they were right to point out that Kamala Harris could have chosen Josh Shapiro. By the way, didn't even mention Mark Kelly in there, which is extraordinary. Think about the fact that Kamala Harris decided Tim Walz was a better option than Mark Kelly, as Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, tries to plan to run for president in 2028. And didn't pick Josh Shapiro because he's Jewish, didn't pick Pete Buttigieg because he's gay. And yes, I must say, objectively speaking, from all appearances, it's true that unlike Josh Shapiro, Tim Walz is not Jewish. I can't speak to the other thing. Now, as we speak, right now, live, it is happening in Minneapolis. Tim Walz is giving his speech where he is announcing that he's not running for re-election. We would go to it live right now. Unfortunately, he's delivering the speech, of course, in the native language of Minnesota, Somali. I don't want to have to deal with the translation. We'll get to it if anything big happens. But he did put out this written statement earlier today. Happy New Year, Minnesota. Like many Minnesotans, I was glad to turn the page on 2025. Ooh, turn the page. Bookmark that in your brain. We'll get back to turn the page coming up in a bit. It was an extraordinarily difficult year for our state, and it ended on a particularly sour note. For the last several years, an organized group of criminals have sought to take advantage of our state's generosity. And even as we make progress in the fight against the fraudsters, we now see an organized group of political actors seeking to take advantage of the crisis. Wait a second. I thought there wasn't a problem there. I thought to point out the corruption in Minnesota, you were a white supremacist, right? That's what I thought. That's what Tim Walz told me. That investigations into the fraud in Minnesota was really an exercise in white supremacy. That's what he said. Oh, well, that's why he's stepping down, because he's a Klansman. I won't mince words here, he says. Donald Trump and his allies in Washington and St. Paul and online, yeah, he's got a lot of allies in St. Paul, Minnesota, want to make our state a colder, meaner place. They want to poison our people against each other by attacking our neighbors. And ultimately, they want to take away much of what makes Minnesota the best place in America to raise a family. They've already begun by taking our tax dollars that were meant to help families afford child care, and they have no intention of stopping there. You see, the president, the administration, has halted all federal funding for daycare programs until Minnesota can prove that they're on top of the fraud. Okay, and they're blaming that on Donald Trump, right? Let me just explain something. If Tim Walz has made Minnesota the greatest place in the country for families to move to, and if this is all about Donald Trump being a meanie pants and trying to, politically damage Tim Walz when everything's actually hunky-dory, you really think he'd step down? You really think that he would decide not to run for re-election? You really think that because Minnesota's MAGA country. Yeah, sure, Timmy, we believe you. Do they give men tampons in prison? Do you know? Is that a thing? Because he might want to look into that. Maybe in Minnesota they do, although maybe not the federal penitentiaries, and he's probably guilty of federal crimes. Make no mistake, Tim says. We should be concerned about fraud in our state government. Oh, well, when you're the governor and you actually have to say that out loud, it suggests that maybe it doesn't appear like you do care about fraud in your state government. We cannot effectively deliver programs and services if we can't earn the public's trust. That's why over the past few years, we've made systemic changes to the way we do business. We've gone to the legislature time and time again, blah, 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 blah. He eventually gets to the point. The political gamesmanship we're seeing from Republicans is only making the fight harder to win. We've got Republicans here in the legislature playing hide and seek with whistleblowers. We've got conspiracy theorists, right-wing YouTubers breaking into daycare centers and demanding access to our children, breaking in. We've got the President of the United States demonizing our Somali neighbors and wrongly confiscating child care funding that Minnesotans rely on. It's disgusting and it's dangerous. Well, if that's all going on, why is he running away from the fight? Right? Yeah. Republicans are playing politics with the future of our state, and it's shameful. I've said it before. I'll say it again. We welcome ideas from anyone in any party who wants to help us continue to stay ahead of the criminals, and we welcome the involvement of the federal government. I'm grateful to the career professionals, the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI, who are helping us with this fight. That's the statement that goes along with his announcement that he will not be running for re-election. Incredible. Let me just point out, as he's blaming this on Republicans in Minnesota and the vast right-wing conspiracy in Minnesota, can I just point out that the last time Minnesota voted statewide for a Republican for president was 1972, Richard Nixon. That is the longest any single state in the United States of America has gone without voting for a Republican. That's how blue this state is. And he says it's the vast right-wing conspiracy in Minnesota. Really? Let me explain something to you. The only reason Tim Walz is announcing right now as we speak that he's not running for governor is because of Democrats. It's the Democrats who have told him, you're done so. But if you were watching CNN, you had to do this. You had to, we don't know what's going on in Minnesota. This has shocked us more than anybody else. I don't know. Let's speculate. Why must this be happening? Okay, here's your news from CNN this morning.
Big breaking political news out of Minnesota. Governor Tim Walz, who of course was the Democratic nominee for vice president in 2024, has ended his re-election bid for governor. He is not going to run for re-election. This comes as pressure has been growing around this widening welfare fraud scandal. Now, Walz has not been accused of any wrongdoing, but it has been a growing political headache. Let's get right to CNN Chief National Affairs Correspondent Jeff Zeleny. This is a wow this morning, or at least would have been if you had said it was going to happen, 2 or 3 months ago?
That's right, John. Good morning. Even perhaps 2 or 3 weeks ago, the reality is Minnesota Governor Tim Walz had been insistent on running for a third term, which would have been unprecedented in and of itself. Minnesota has not elected a governor for 3 consecutive terms, but it is that deepening federal probe as well as this widening scandal. As you said, he is not implicated in this at all. This is actually somewhat old news in Minnesota. This has been going on for years and years. The prosecution started back during the Biden administration, but over the holidays, it certainly did widen. There was a right-wing influencer who posted a viral video on social media that quite literally went viral when the vice president of the United States and the FBI director leaned in on this, and it shined a brighter spotlight on really what had been some deep concerns among Minnesota Democrats, even about the wisdom of Governor Walz seeking a third term. They believe that this would hang over the entire reelection effort and perhaps even damage the Democratic Party.
Of course, it would have damaged the Democratic Party because every single Democrat running for re-election in the midterms in 2026 would have to answer to this. And I love it. It was a right-wing YouTube, agitator who put out this video. He didn't say anything that was critical of the video, though. I mean, other than to characterize Nick Shirley and the audience that received the video, right? But did you hear him actually say that there was anything untruthful or deceptive or wrong? No. So let me rephrase what he just said there about the mounting pressure on Tim Walz as a result of Nick Shirley's reporting. Here's what happened. The investigation's been going on a while. There has been great concerns about fraud in Minnesota with regard to the Somali community. And over the holidays, journalism happened. We don't know much about that here at CNN. We didn't do it. No one from the networks did it. No one from, any of the major newspapers did it. But some YouTube guy with a GoPro camera and a Rode Bluetooth microphone, he did some journalism. And that suddenly put so much pressure and shined such a light on what the Minnesota governor was doing and his complete corrupt Democrat Party had done in the government that now he is backing out of his reelection campaign. That's what happened there. Everything that you just saw in that 1 minute and 50-second clip from CNN about the events in Minnesota, that was the most their audience has heard about the corruption in the daycare and healthcare programs that you pay for than they have heard in the last 3 weeks, because they're not interested in the news. Dustin Grage with Town Hall Media, our colleague at Town Hall, he covers Minnesota politics and government. He posted this morning that he's hearing from reliable sources that Tim Walz has legal trouble ahead of him. The reason this is going down is because Tim Walz is going to be implicated in all of this fraud and in all of this corruption, either directly benefiting from it, directly participating in it, or he's going to be implicated in the cover-up. That's what it appears is happening here. Meanwhile, back to Nick Shirley, the citizen journalist who made this story explode over the last 2 weeks. He posted that on X. I ended Tim Walz, and he's not wrong. Citizen journalism. That's what did this. President Trump last night on Air Force One, flying back from his holiday at Mar-a-Lago, was asked about Tim Walz. This is before the announcement broke late last night that it looked as though he was going to be ending his reelection campaign. Here's what Donald Trump had to say about Tim Walz.
It's almost not even believable. This very stupid, low IQ governor, he's a very stupid man because, I had a campaign against him with JD, and he's a stupid man. And he's a corrupt politician. And the Somalians are ripping off our country to the tune of, looks like $19 billion, but that's only what they can find. So usually when you're looking at 19, that would mean it could be 50. But the numbers are astronomical. Think of it. They have a dead country. They don't have government. They don't have anything. They don't have a military. All they do is run around shooting people and trying to capture ships. We don't let them take ships anymore. You know why? We use the same exact missile on them that we use on the drug carriers. And it's very effective. You notice there's nobody capturing ships anymore? Because as they head out to go capture the ship, and the ship doesn't want to fire back because it's very flammable stuff in many cases, and the insurance companies don't want, because they build $1 billion ship, and they don't want anybody firing rockets into the ship. But we're hitting them so hard, and it's very similar. Same missile system. It's called deadly accurate. And do you notice that ships aren't being taken anymore? The pirates are.
That's right. I hadn't thought about
The pirates aren't. Well, no.
No Somali pirates.
It's actually very easy. They head out. We say, guess what? There's pirates. Bing. That's the end of the pirates. The shipping business is coming back because, see, these are little things that we're doing, and I'm doing it not just for American ships. I'm doing it worldwide.
All right, so we'll get more on that extraordinary press conference on Air Force One a little bit later. But you heard the very first thing he said there about Tim Walz, a very low IQ person, moronic person. What's Lindsey Graham doing there, by the way? Why is he getting a free ride on Air Force One? Back to Tim Walz and his statement. If you remember right, he said in his opening paragraph of his written statement, I was glad to turn the page on 2025. That's what he said. I was glad to turn the page on 2025. And that got us thinking, turn the page. Turn the page. Where have we heard that before, especially in relation to Tim Walz? Turn the page. It does. It rings a bell, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
You should be with me and practice with me. What are we going to do? We're going to turn the page. Oh, pretty good. Do it again. We're going to turn the page. And we're going to turn the page. All right, so I'm going to be watching you, because when I see Wisconsin, and I'm going to watch you nationally on TV, because this is a pretty important place, and Minnesota helped you practice with this, you just show me this. Turn the page, right? Turn the page. And you know what else that looks like? Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Donald Trump. We are turning the page. 52 days and we are turning the page. 52 days and it is bye-bye.
Yeah. Turn the page indeed. Here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that what's really going on here is that Tim Walz is choosing not to run for re-election so he can put all of his focus, all of his energies, all of his political know-how, and all of his fundraising power toward his 2028 presidential bid. That's what's really happening here, because I want these two on the campaign trail. I want these two representing the Democrats. They're perfect if you think about it. They represent everything the Democrats are right now. They're Marxists. They don't know the difference between boys and girls. They want to make sure that your kids can chop off their private parts or takes drugs to make them sterile. And they're corrupt. It works on all levels. And let's not forget, Kamala Harris, in her one singular decision that gave us insight into what kind of president she would make, she chose this guy as her running mate. That was her wisdom. And the party loved him. They loved him. So that's what I'm hoping what's really happening. That's what's happening behind the scenes. He doesn't want to get distracted by running for governor. He wants to put all his eggs in that presidential basket. He'll be heading to Iowa, South Carolina, New Hampshire. He's going to start raising money, and he's ready. Walz 28, that's what we need. Or, hear me out, he's a corrupt failure, and he has no political future. And we've all now just decided to turn the page on Tim Walz. Say it with me. Come on. Turn the page. Because it's sort of like, bye-bye. Bye-bye, Tim Walz. Bye-bye. It's my jazz hands. All right, coming up in a second, Marco Rubio has his moment. And it's spectacular on the Sunday shows. We'll get to that in 60 seconds. First, though, a new year means new financial goals, like making sure your savings are secure and diversified. Will this be the year you finally listen to me and talk to someone from Birch Gold Group? Come on. Is this the year? Honestly, they're great people. I appreciate their educational approach and their understanding of macroeconomics. There are forces which push the dollar lower and gold higher, which is why they believe every American should own physical gold. So until January 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 on qualifying purchases. Now, to claim eligibility and to start the process, just text Larry to 989898. Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you're still eligible for a rebate of up to $10,000. You can make right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy by January 30th. Text my name, Larry, to 989898. Claim your eligibility today. Again, text Larry to 989898. Do that today. Do it right now, in fact. Amazing. All right, let's get right to it. Well, if you watched our live stream on Saturday, you saw the press conference out of Mar-a-Lago where the president and his closest military and diplomatic advisors announced the successful military effort to help the Justice Department apprehend Nicolas Maduro from Caracas, Venezuela, and bring him to justice. In fact, he's in a courtroom being arraigned right now as we speak. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio, whose parents are refugees from communist Cuba, who has an affinity toward the Latin American political world, he wanted, when he became Secretary of State, to try to focus and refocus America's efforts right in our backyard and try to clean up these countries that have been basket cases and have been inflicting harm on the American people. So what we saw here was President Trump given the go-ahead for an operation that really very much is in the vision of what Marco Rubio wants to do with not just Venezuela, but with some other countries. And coming up in a bit, we're going to show you how the Colombian president has reacted to what just happened next door in Venezuela. But first, Marco Rubio was all over the Sunday shows yesterday, speaking on behalf of the Trump administration. We've come to really enjoy Secretary Rubio's appearances on these shows, and he seemed to have a good time too. First, it's George Stephanopoulos, Democrat operative, who decided to pretend to be a journalist and interrogate Secretary Rubio for this horrible thing that he's done.
The United States is going to run Venezuela. Under what legal authority?
Well, first of all, what's going to happen here is that we have a quarantine on their oil. That means their economy will not be able to move forward until the conditions that are in the national interest of the United States and the interest of the Venezuelan people are met. And that's what we intend to do. So that leverage remains, that leverage is ongoing, and we expect that it's going to lead to results here. We're hopeful that it does, positive results for the people of Venezuela, but ultimately, most importantly for us, in the national interest of the United States. We will no longer have, hopefully, as we move forward here, we'll set the conditions so that we no longer have in our hemisphere a Venezuela that's the crossroads for many of our adversaries around the world, including Iran and Hezbollah, is no longer sending us drug gangs, is no longer sending us drug boats, is no longer a narco-trafficking paradise for all those drugs coming out of Colombia to go in through the Caribbean and towards the United States. And obviously, we want a better future for the people of Venezuela. We want them to have an oil industry where the wealth goes to the people, not to a handful of corrupt individuals and stolen by, pirates all over the world. That's what we're working towards, and we intend to use the leverage we have to help achieve that.
Let me ask the question again. What is the legal authority for the United States to be running Venezuela?
Well, I explained to you what our goals are and how we're going to use the leverage to make it happen. As far as what our legal authority is on the quarantine, I'm very simple. We have court orders. These are sanctioned boats, and we get orders from courts to go after and seize these sanctions. So I don't know, is a court not a legal authority?
So is the United States running Venezuela right now?
Well, I've explained once again, I'll do it one more time. What we are running is the direction that this is going to moving forward. And that is, we have leverage. This leverage we are using and we intend to use. We started using already. You can see where they are running out of storage capacity. In a few weeks, they're going to have to start pumping oil unless they make changes. And that leverage that we have with the armada of boats that are currently positioned allow us to seize any sanctioned boats coming into or out of Venezuela, loaded with oil or on its way in to pick up oil, and we can pick and choose which ones we go after. We have court orders for each one. That will continue to be in place until the people who have control over the levers of power in that country make changes that are not just in the interest of the people of Venezuela, but are in the interest of the United States and the things that we care about. That's what we intend to do.
Was asked yesterday,
the legal authority is the court orders that we have.
When the president was asked yesterday who will be running Venezuela, he said it was you, he said it was the defense secretary, he said it was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Are you running Venezuela right now?
George, I've explained again that the leverage that we have here is the leverage of the quarantine. So that is a Department of War operation, conducting, in some cases, law enforcement functions with the Coast Guard on the seizure of these boats. I'm obviously very intricately involved in these policies. And by the way, very intricately involved in moving forward and what we hope to see some of these changes being addressed. Unfortunately, the person that was there before, who was not the legitimate president of the country, was someone we could not work with, was someone that we could not. He had already suckered the Biden administration a couple of years ago on a deal he didn't keep. And this is someone we simply couldn't work with. We are hopeful that there are people in place now. We're going to find out. The proof will be in what they do or fail to do, that will start making some of these changes that will ultimately lead to a Venezuela that looks substantially and dramatically different from what's been in place for 15 years. But our number one objective is America. We care about Venezuela. We want it to do well moving forward. But our number one objective here is America. No more drugs, no more trained at agua gangs coming our direction, and no more an area of the country in our hemisphere that becomes a crossroads for every single adversary we have around the world. Hezbollah, Iran, all of them have turned it into their playground. That can and will not continue under this administration.
Oh, George. There he is. So now I would love to play for you the clips of George Stephanopoulos grilling then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton about her lack of legal authority to help depose Muammar Gaddafi in Libya and help prop up an interim government there. All right, let's play that clip. Oh, that never happened. How about George Stephanopoulos grilling then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton or then President Barack Obama about his lack of legal authority to go into Pakistan unauthorized to take out Osama bin Laden? No, that didn't happen either. It sure didn't. All right. Well, how about the lack of legal authority? No, it doesn't. It's all nonsense. All they know how to do is oppose whatever Trump is doing and whatever his administration is doing. If they had gone in and gotten Maduro, which of course they had every legal right to do because of the American court orders and the indictments and such, if they had gotten him and then just walked away and not done anything and just left Caracas in chaos without any leadership, without any oversight, without the American government saying, okay, so we're going to, help work with you and we're going to help until you can get a free and fair election. We will give you security assistance as needed, and we will also help you. If we hadn't done any of that and just walked away and let it, burn in a hellfire, they'd be criticizing us for not doing anything. And if Rubio went up there and said, well, George, we don't have any legal authority to do anything in there, he said, well, of course you do. There's no winning because their job is not to get information out and facts to the American people. Their job is to have a gotcha moment where you're wrong and you're evil and you're bad. Now, George is pretty good at it because he's been doing it for 30 years, ever since he worked for the Clinton administration and then transitioned seamlessly into objective journalist. Margaret Brennan, on the other hand, over on CBS News, she's not so good at it. She's pretty brazenly transparent about how she does it. But Marco Rubio, boy, oh boy, does he love going on Margaret Brennan's show. Take a look at this one. Margaret Brennan made the mistake in this interview of pretending like she was confused. She said she was confused. Why? Well, because unlike George Stephanopoulos, who didn't want the U.S. to go in and get Nicolas Maduro at all, Margaret Brennan had a different approach. Oh, sure, you got Maduro, but what about all these other guys? Why didn't you get all of them? I kid you not. You talk about heads I win, tails you lose. Watch how this transpired.
He's still in place. The defense minister, who has deep ties to Russia, $15 million price on his head, he is still in place. I'm confused. Are they still wanted by the United States? Why didn't you arrest them if you are taking out the narco-terrorist regime?
You're confused? I don't know why that's confusing to you. I mean, it's very simple. You're not going to go in and wrap up. But you can't go. You're going to go in and suck up 5 people. They're already complaining about this one operation. Imagine the howls we would have from everybody else if we actually had to go and stay there 4 days to capture 4 other people. We got the top priority. The number one person on the list was the guy who claimed to be the president of the country that he was not. And he was arrested along with his wife, who was also indicted. And that was a pretty sophisticated and frankly complicated operation.
It was.
It is not easy to land helicopters in the middle of the largest military base in the country. The guy lived on a military base. land within 3 minutes, kick down his door, grab him, put him in handcuffs, read him his rights, put him in a helicopter, and leave the country without losing any American or any American assets. That's not an easy mission. And you're asking me, why didn't we do that in 5 other places at the same time? I mean, that's absurd. I do think this is one of the most, daring, complicated, sophisticated missions this country has carried out in a very long time. Tremendous credit to the U.S. military personnel who did it. It was unbelievable, and tremendous success. And today, an indicted drug trafficker who was not the legitimate president of Venezuela, who we don't recognize, the Biden administration didn't recognize, 60-something countries don't recognize, the European Union doesn't recognize, and many countries in Latin America don't recognize. He was a indicted drug trafficker. He was arrested. His wife was arrested, also
but the others who are also indicted are still
system of courts.
The others who are also indicted are still in place. So that's the point of my questioning there. But you talked about not being the legitimate
president. So you wanted
president.
us to land in 5 other military bases?
No, I'm asking why you chose that this was the limit of the military operation. But to your point that you just made, that Maduro was not the legitimate president.
He was the guy who was claiming to be the president.
Right. Well, the opposition.
He was the top target.
That's just unbelievable. So now, just so you know, if you're keeping score here, Trump and Rubio are evil incarnate because they went and got Nicolas Maduro, a man who, over half of the world refused to recognize as the leader of that country, who stole the presidency and has become a narco-terrorist and was indicted for drug trafficking crimes here in America, amongst other charges. They're evil incarnate for going and doing that. And, by the way, they're also evil incarnate because they didn't take 5 other people in a similar fashion. That's Margaret Brennan logic right there. And I do love, I'm confused. And Margaret was like, you're confused? Why are you confused? But she continued. Oh, that's a unfortunate screen grab there, isn't it, Margaret? What's going on, man? What's with the shoulder pads, by the way? She looks like she's suiting up for the Vikings this Sunday. Is she bringing that look back? Is that a thing now? Okay, let's see. There's more here.
So
it was an illegitimate election, and that's why he's not a legitimate president.
Right, but is there an agreement to transition to democracy?
I think what the president pointed out is the obvious. Well, I think what the point, but there has to be a little realism here, okay? A transition to they've had this regime, they've had this system of Chavismo in place for 15 or 16 years. And everyone's asking why 24 hours after Nicolas Maduro was arrested, there isn't an election scheduled for tomorrow? That's absurd.
I'm asking what you talked about with her.
These things take time.
Why haven't you had an election yet? What the hell, Marco? Why haven't you had the election yet? They're pathetic. So this interview is going on, and over in the green room, Senator Tom Cotton, I believe he's the chairman now of the Intelligence Committee in the Senate, he's watching this all transpire, and he's like, oh, I cannot wait to get out there. I cannot wait to get on set with Margaret. And here he is. Take a look at his face. It's like every Republican politician in D.C. is like, please let me on Face the Nation. Oh, Margaret Brennan's not in today? Okay, forget it then. I only want to be there when Margaret's there. Take a look at Margaret Brennan. Watch her attitude. Watch her body language as she interviews Tom Cotton.
So when the president says we will run Venezuela, you are confident that there are actual American assets helping to do that? Is that how I should
I'm confident that we have very good insight into Venezuela and other adversaries, foreign nations, and terrorist groups around the world. That's why the president has such confidence.
Delcy Rodriguez.
Did you see look at the look on her face. Look at this. Why was China there? As if there's some nefarious thing going on. But this happened, by the way. I don't know if you know this. China, Nicolas Maduro had only the best friends around the world. Russia, China, and Iran, right? And we'll get to the Iran stuff later and what they were doing there, what Hezbollah was doing there in Venezuela. What is Hezbollah doing with a base in the Western Hemisphere? Funded by Iran. That amazing. But look at the face. Everything is, suspicious and suspect. Everything that Tom Cotton is saying is indictable, right? Did you know that the afternoon before this military strike, President Maduro, dictator Maduro, met with a Chinese delegation that had just arrived there in Caracas? They were spending the night. They had a planned meeting for Saturday, where they were going to talk about all their new plans for oil and diplomacy and trade. And what? The Chinese delegation, meets with Maduro. They go to their luxury hotel, go to sleep, and at 1 a.m, they hear overhead, open up the window. Here comes all of the Apache helicopters and Yankee Doodle Dandy blasting from the speakers. And the Chinese diplomats are like, oh, something's happening. Message sent, message heard loud and clear, President Trump. Looking forward to seeing you in Beijing. Everything's fine. We'll reach a deal. Don't worry, hombre. Why was China there? We waited until China was there so we can send the message. Okay, more of her attitude with Tom Cotton here. Watch.
That's why the president has such confidence.
Delcy Rodriguez spoke yesterday with Russia's top diplomat. They are in contact with Russia. The defense minister has deep, deep ties to Russia. You okay with this open-ended commitment to keep forces as they are? But there is a significant military buildup all around South America right now.
Yes.
You're comfortable with that? So when
All right, so that's just a montage of Margaret Brennan and how she handled. I think the montage is put together by Ryan Saavedra, I believe, or he put it out, just to show you sort of the tone and attitude she takes when she's interviewing Republicans. All right, more with Marco here.
So
it was an illegitimate election, and that's why he's not a legitimate president.
Right, but is there an agreement to transition to democracy?
I think what the president pointed out is the obvious. Well, I think what the point, but there has to be a little.
Oh, I think we already saw this clip. I apologize. Let me get over to this one. Oh, this is when Marco Rubio decided then to reconnect his camera. He already connected it to ABC News with George Stephanopoulos. Then they dialed up Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation. Now, Kristen Welker, Meet the Press, with a whole new round of ridiculous arguments against him because it doesn't matter. Here's the bottom line. And there's plenty to quibble with in this whole thing. And I know people are like, oh, we're nation building. No, we're not. I'll explain in a minute. Oh, this is, against what Trump said. He didn't say he was going to do this in the campaign. No, he literally said he was going to do this in the campaign. We'll get to that in a minute. But it doesn't matter. Objectively speaking, this is a good day for the people of Venezuela. This is a good day for the people of South America. This is a good day for the people of the Caribbean. This is a good day for the people of Central America. It's a good day for the United States of America. It's a good day for justice. It's a good day for law and order. It's a good day for people who care about drug overdoses in America. It's a good day for the United Nations and NATO and the EU, who have sanctioned this guy and called for him to be removed from office. It's a good day across the board. And so it's a bad day for Democrats and the media in Washington, D.C. And so everywhere Marco went, he was confronted, like this one, Kristen Welker.
Number one, most of the experts that people have on television, I watch these experts, and it's clown hour. Okay, these are people that have focused their entire career on the Middle East or some other part of the world because that's where all the action was. Very few of them know anything about Venezuela or the Western Hemisphere. Venezuela looks nothing like Libya. It looks nothing like Iraq. It looks nothing like Afghanistan. It looks nothing like the Middle East other than the Iranian agents that are running through there plotting against America. Okay? These are Western countries with long traditions among their at a people-to-people and cultural level and ties to the United States. So there's nothing like that. So I think people need to stop ascribing the apples and oranges here, the apples of the Middle East to the oranges of the Western Hemisphere.
But do you...
Number two, this is about the national interest of the United States. And what I'm confident of is we are in a safer and better place because we're taking it seriously. The alternative would have been to leave Maduro there as an indicted drug trafficker, illegitimate president, running the country, open invitation for all of our adversaries to do whatever they want against the United States from Venezuela. That was not going to continue. The alternative would have been to allow a drug trafficker to continue to use national territory and elements of nation-state power to further drug trafficking organizations. Read the indictment. This guy used the levers of their security apparatus not to arrest drug traffickers, but to cooperate and facilitate the trafficking of drugs for the purpose of getting them into the United States. And that's going to stop.
I just love you gotta love Kristen Welker trying to interrupt him and jump in. Okay. Stop with all of the truth. Stop with all of the logic. Stop with all of the good things. Let me come in and crap all over your policy and you. She couldn't get in though because it's objectively a good deal. It really is. And the only other criticism that you heard a lot of criticism, of course, from the left and the media. My favorite one though, and the one that Marco Rubio was obviously prepared for, came yesterday when he was asked about what the United Nations might say about this.
You're wrong in your question. Number one, Venezuela is a major source. And the reason why is the following. And I've seen a lot of this reporting, and it's fake reporting, and I'll tell you why. It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the drug. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about. Maduro is indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. That means the Southern District of New York presented the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury indicted him. And then a superseding indictment came out that was unsealed about a year and a half ago that specifically detailed Maduro's actions. So number one, let there be no doubt, Nicolas Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice.
I just love that. I don't care what the UN says. They don't know what they're talking about. That is your Secretary of State. That is Marco Rubio. He is now a man in full. He is feeling his oats, and he has had a very, very good year. His first year as Secretary of State. That was Marco's moment. All weekend long was Marco's moment. And, well, he deserves quite a bit of a victory lap there, doesn't he? All right, coming up in a moment, is Colombia next? Or what about Cuba or other countries? President Trump on Air Force One gave an impromptu press conference, and he revealed quite a bit. We're going to get to that in just a second. First, though, if I may, a new year means new financial goals, like making sure your savings are secure and diversified. Will this be the year you finally listen to me and talk to someone from Birch Gold Group? Listen to me! Honestly, they're really great people, and I appreciate their educational approach and their understanding of macroeconomics. They're forces which push the dollar lower and gold higher, which is why they believe every American should own physical gold. So, to that end, until January 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, just text Larry to 989898. Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold, and you're still eligible for a rebate of up to $10,000. You can make right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy by January 30th. Just text my name, Larry, to 989898. Claim your eligibility today. Again, text Larry to 989898. Do that today, will you? Thanks. So Nicolas Maduro FA'd and he FO'd. Now, the president of Colombia appears to be FAing. We're going to show you what he had to say in response to the U.S. military's phenomenal feat of military brilliance in Caracas, Venezuela over the weekend. And what will happen to the president of Colombia? Well, Donald Trump has an idea. We'll get to the president of Colombia in just a second. But first, he's flying back from Mar-a-Lago. He's been down there for 2 hours. By the way, all this happened while he was on vacation. The Venezuela strike, summit with Benjamin Netanyahu, summit with Volodymyr Zelensky over Russia, Ukraine, all this stuff going on. The great economic news, the GDP breaking records and better than anyone expected, inflation down, all this stuff happening while he's on vacation, chilling out down in Palm Beach, Florida. So now he's done with his 2 weeks vacation. Lord knows what he's going to do back in D.C. He gets onto Air Force One and he says, you know what? We had a pretty good weekend. I think I'll go back and talk to the media. And so here's some questions and answers he had.
What are your thoughts on the entire situation? You said the U.S. would run Venezuela.
We're dealing with the people. We're dealing with the people that just got sworn in. And don't ask me who's in charge, because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
It means we're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
We're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
No, I haven't, but other people have.
Do you want to?
Yeah, at the right time I will.
At the right time, I will. All right, so her, by the way, is the vice president, who Nicolas Maduro handpicked, has recently been sworn in as vice president. Now she's been sworn in as president. We're told that she's cooperating with American authorities. But this whole we're in charge thing, and the president, he said, yeah, I'm going to say it. It'll be controversial. Let's just be clear. We're in charge means that nothing goes on there unless we give the green light. Nothing's going to happen unless it's first run by United States authorities. That doesn't mean we're down there and we're like, hiring people to run their various government agencies. It doesn't mean that, Marco Rubio or somebody that Marco Rubio chose is sitting in the presidential palace with his feet up on the desk saying, yeah, let's do that. No, let's do that. What it means is we are now the authority over and above the Venezuelan government, the interim government, until they can have a free and fair election. All right? And that may be controversial. You may not like that. I get it. I do. But let me assuage your concerns about this being nation building. As of now, that's not what this looks like. All right? There are huge differences between Venezuela and Iraq, or Afghanistan for that matter. Let me just lay them out there for you. Don't think of what's going on in Venezuela as nation building. Think of it as nation restoration, nation restoring. All right? Because in Iraq and in Afghanistan, they didn't have any infrastructure. They didn't have any government to speak of, really, not a functioning government. They had no experience with free and fair elections, with a parliamentary system, with representative democracy. We were instilling a constitution and Western democratic ideals onto a culture that abhorred that sort of thing. Right? They were tribal nations. They backed the strong horse at any given time, and that's what they were used to at any given time. Venezuela is very different. We basically helped build the Venezuelan economy right up until they elected a Marxist in Hugo Chavez. America has been involved in that country for quite some time through our oil corporations and through other financial interests. We still have that infrastructure there, and they had a semblance of a government, and they had a semblance of a Western-style democracy and representative democracy already in place. Now it's just a question of restoring what was already there. That's not nation building. That's nation fixing. And despite what people say, we actually do have a pretty good track record at that sort of thing. Don't think about Iraq. Think about Panama and Manuel Noriega. Think about the Philippines with Ferdinand Marcos. Right? That's more like what's going on in Venezuela right now. All right? Just, that doesn't mean we should be complacent. It doesn't mean we should sit back and watch, but the bottom line with regard to this being some sort of military occupation quagmire like we saw in Iraq, we deposed that entire government. We destroyed, we got rid of everybody because they had one party, the Ba'ath Party, and they were controlling everything, and we got rid of all of them and tried to build it up from scratch. That's not what's going on in Venezuela. Let me just give you one factoid that you should chew on, and then you can reach your own conclusion about whether the U.S. is in danger of having some sort of long-term military quagmire that will end up with casualties stacking up. And by the way, I hope I'm right about this. If I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to say, what the hell are we doing in Venezuela? Get our troops out of there, okay? But I don't think we're going to have a very significant commitment of U.S. troops in Venezuela. And here's the factoid I want you to chew on. When Nicolas Maduro was apprehended on that military base by our American troops, he was being protected by Cuban soldiers. Not Venezuelan soldiers, Cuban soldiers. What does that tell you? Well, it tells you that Nicolas Maduro couldn't trust his own military. It tells you that Nicolas Maduro had already lost the confidence of his military infrastructure. They were not on his side. He probably had to fend off military coups left and right. That's why he had Cubans protecting him. So one should reach a logical conclusion that there are elements within Venezuela's security forces and military forces that were already anti-Maduro and were open to this transaction. And I've got to think, based on some of the things that Senator Cotton said and some of the things that we've seen from Hegseth and from Rubio, that the Americans already had inroads to those people and had already been laying the groundwork for this. So be patient, keep your eyes open, and let's see how this transpires. All right, back to President Trump on Air Force One.
Colombia is very sick, too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States, and he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell you.
What does that mean? He's not going to be doing it very long.
He's not doing it very long. He has cocaine mills and cocaine factories. He's not going to be doing it very long.
So there will be an operation by the U.S. and
it sounds
Rubio?
good to me.
Secretary Rubio mentioned.
You know why? Because they kill a lot of people.
All right, so that's Colombia now on the clock. Colombia's got their own problems. Colombia is also narco-trafficking. And when asked, could that be a military strike as well? He said, sounds good to me. So, what does the president of Cuba have to say about that?
A mí no me amenace, aquí lo espero si quiere. No acepto invasiones, no acepto misiles, no acepto asesinatos, acepto inteligencia. Vengan aquí a hablar con inteligencia y lo recibimos y hablamos de tú a tú y con cifras reales, no con mentiras. Deje de engañarse de las mafias políticas colombianas, porque nos condenaron a 700,000 muertos, a ser el país más desigual del mundo.
Let me translate. Come and get me, he said. He said, come and get me. Why is it when I see somebody in Latin America speaking Spanish in front of a camera, I immediately think Senator Chris Van Hollen is going to emerge with a tray full of margaritas? I don't know why. It's just, I have this instinct that that's what's about to happen. So here's the president of Colombia, right after President Trump said, yeah, you know, he's as big a problem as Maduro is right now. And the president of Colombia in Spanish says, come and get me, pal. Come on, big orange man. You want a piece of me? Come and get me. You know, it's interesting. The last person we saw doing exactly that, saying in Spanish to Donald Trump, come and get me. Well, this is how it went.
Venga por mí.
Last night, on the order of the President of the United States,
Aquí lo esperan Miraflores.
and in support of a request from the Department of Justice,
No se tarde en llegar.
the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas and Cecilia Maduro.
¡Cobarde!
Nicolas Maduro had his chance until he didn't. He effed around and he found out.
This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history.
Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, you know, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. But don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well.
That awesome video, as you can see, put out by the White House's great digital team. So now we've got another Spanish despot screaming, come and get me, come and get me. I wonder if the president of Colombia will soon be starring in a little video montage just like that. We'll see. But Colombia isn't the only thing that President Trump has his eye on here as he tries to clean up shop in our own hemisphere for once. What about Cuba?
Cuba is ready to fall. You know?
Yes.
Cuba looks like it's ready to fall. I don't know if they're going to hold out. But Cuba now has no income. They got all of their income from Venezuela, from the Venezuelan oil. They're not getting any of it. And Cuba literally is ready to fall. And you have a lot of great Cuban Americans that are going to be very happy about this.
Are you considering U.S. action in Cuba?
We're not. I think it's just going to fall. I don't think we need any action. It looks like it's going down. It's going down for the count. You ever watch a fight?
I have.
They go down for the count. And Cuba looks like it's going down. Cuba is...
Lindsey Graham is like, he has never seen a foreign incursion toppling a foreign government that he hasn't just gotten orgasmic over. That was just weird to watch him so excited about Cuba. That said, if Cuba does fall, I just want to say we're going to put together the Larry Viewer cruise. We're going to the Caribbean. We're going to Havana. We're going to tour a cigar factory, and we're all going to have a beautiful smoke. How great would that be? In a free and prosperous Cuba. Let's go. Who wants to sign up for that cruise? Let me know down in the live chat. All right. Now, lest anyone think that the president is exercising his new Monroe Doctrine, which we're calling the Donroe Doctrine, if his interest in asserting American influence and America's priorities on our neighbors in our hemisphere, if it only is focused on those nations to the south of us where Spanish is the primary language, well, you'd be wrong, because during this press conference, he also put in a bid for his favorite country where they speak a bit of a Scandinavian dialect.
I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you. You know what Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled. It's true. They thought that was a great move.
What would the justification be for a claim to Greenland? What would the justification?
Oh, I don't want to talk about Greenland now. I just say this. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And the European Union needs us to have it. And
they know it. And this is all about leverage. This is how Donald Trump makes deals. And this is all about leverage. And he has more leverage than any single human being on the planet right now. And he's utilizing that leverage for our benefit, for the free people all around the world, and certainly for the United States of America, primarily, of course. This is America First, as you're seeing it exercised right now. And it will maintain as an America First policy right up until the point where it's no longer in our interest. And that's when you have to be careful. And that's when you have to say, okay, this isn't in our interest anymore. Let's get the hell out of here. Right? Okay. But I do love that. I love that move. Greenland, we need Greenland. There's Chinese ships all over the place. There's Russian ships all over the place. Denmark thinks that they're going to protect Greenland, and all they did was give them a dog sled. Greenland is a major necessity for us, and we need them. Then the reporter says, well, what's the justification for Greenland? And Trump's like, I don't want to talk about Greenland. It is just hilarious the way he works these guys. And by the way, now that if we could turn south again, and our Spanish-speaking friends south of our border, if you say to any American citizen on the street of our great fruited plain here, celebrating our 250th birthday all year long, if you asked anybody, who's the major problem on this planet right now when it comes to narco-terrorism and drug cartels infiltrating the streets and schools, subdivisions, and rural areas of our United States of America, what's the one country they'll come up with? It's not Venezuela. It's not Colombia. You know what it is. It's Mexico. And Mexico's been playing around. And for everybody who says, this isn't what I voted for, Trump didn't say anything about this, you're either stupid, you're lying to yourself, or you weren't paying attention. But go back and look at all of those rallies. We covered them here. He brought up the drug cartels over and over and over again. He said it was time to get the military engaged in stopping these drug cartels and these narco-terrorists. He said it all the time. And he's been working, he's been allowing Mexico to try to clean up their own act. But let me tell you something. What you saw over the weekend in Venezuela, that had Mexico written all over it. I assure you that in Mexico City, their eyes were as wide as anybody watching what was going on. And Trump addressed it on Air Force One.
Has to get their act together because they're pouring through Mexico and we're going to have to do something. We'd love Mexico to do it. They're capable of doing it. But unfortunately, the cartels are very strong in Mexico.
I remember one time you actually, speaking of Mexico, I asked you about Claudia Sheinbaum, and you told me at one point you had offered to send U.S. troops into Mexico to combat drug trafficking there. Is that something you would
I like Claudia. I think she's a terrific person. I would say every single time I talk to her, I offered to send troops.
And she's just not willing?
She's concerned. She's a little afraid. The cartels are running Mexico. Whether you like it or not, it's not nice to say, but the cartels are running Mexico.
Now, that's fascinating. And one wonders what might be going on behind the scenes with regard to Mexico. Because if you didn't catch it all, he revealed that he's had conversations with the president of Mexico. He likes her and respects her, he claims. And he's told her that she has to do something about the cartels. And basically, he just said that she's afraid. And then said, basically, the cartels are running Mexico. That opens the door for the United States potentially to cooperate with the Mexican government and to finally bring order to that dysfunctional country and get those cartels out for good. That would be remarkable. And if your mind is boggled right now, as you sit and you look at all of these things and you say, well, there's that country and there's that country and there's that country, what the hell is going on here? Well, it does bring to mind the Monroe Doctrine. President James Monroe, who basically through Manifest Destiny said, listen, yeah, we're these colonies on the east coast of this continent, but Our doctrine is that any area and territory that directly affects our borders and our people, American influence needs to be paramount, and we will utilize our diplomatic efforts and, if necessary, and our economic ability and our trade power, but if necessary, also our military might to ensure that America's interests are protected, not just in our nation, but in this hemisphere, specific to this hemisphere. And the president was asked by reporters what this was all about, and he drew the distinction between what this robust focus is on our hemisphere versus past escapades in Southeast Asia or in the Middle East and other areas of the world where we didn't have a great success rate. Here's the president in a very roundabout way sketching out what people are now referring to as the Donroe Doctrine.
Do you have that clip, Larry?
Sorry about that. Let me start it again.
Is the U.S. nation building now? Is that
This isn't a country that's on the other side of the world. This isn't a country like we have to travel 24 hours in an airplane. This is Venezuela. It's in our area. The Donroe Doctrine.
So is that what you would say, that we're in the business of nation building now?
We're in the business of having countries around us that are viable and successful, and where the oil is allowed to freely come out because that's good. It gets the prices down. That's good for our country. Now, we have a very sick neighbor. It's not a neighbor, but it's close to a neighbor, and that's Venezuela. It's very sick. Colombia is very sick too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States, and he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell you.
All right, so you heard him say the Donroe Doctrine. He said we're not talking about some country on the other side of the planet. These are countries that are in our hemisphere who directly affect us. And yes, we have neglected our hemisphere. And he went on to say that this is ultimately about peace. This is about ensuring that there is peace not just for our citizens and for this country, but as the leader of the free world, we want to make sure that our allies experience peace. And by the way, let's not forget the people who are living in these countries under these dictators.
It's about peace on earth.
How is it peace on earth?
Peace on earth. We got to have peace. It's our hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine was very important when it was done, and other presidents, a lot of them, they lost sight of it. I didn't lose sight, but it really is. It's peace on earth.
All right. So a lot of people are trying to figure this out. They're trying to read between the lines. They're trying to say, what does this mean? What is our real policy? What countries are going to be, subject to our influence, either economically or through trade policies, or yes, maybe even through military policies? Which countries aren't? What does this mean? And anybody who's telling you all the answers to those questions, they don't really know. They're giving you speculation, and I'll give you speculation too. But my speculation, I think, is informed by doing quite a bit of research, quite a bit of reading, and listening to not just what the president has said for the last 10 years of his public life, government public life, but also those closest to him. During our live stream on Saturday, when we were covering the Mar-a-Lago press conference and this incredible turn of events here that it's really just sort of redrawn the political map going forward. This is going to be a top issue in the 2026 midterm election as well as the 28 presidential campaign. The president does this and he changes the playing field, right? I pointed out the fact that up on camera there was the president's closest advisors on this issue. You had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane. You had Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. You had the president. You had Secretary of State Marco Rubio. You had CIA Director John Ratcliffe. And who was the last person there on the shot? Do you remember? Was it National Security Advisor? Nope. Was it the Chief of Staff? Nope. It was Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller, the Deputy Chief of Staff and advisor to the president, quite possibly the most influential voice in the president's ear on the most important policies that this president has owned the first year of this second term. And when Stephen Miller says something, I pay attention, and I relate it back to exactly what we're all trying to figure out is going on in the Trump White House. So while everyone is out there scratching their heads and wondering, what's going on? What does this mean? Why are we doing this? What's this Don Roe doctrine? What are the rules? Just bear with me for a moment, because last night at 11:39 p.m., or excuse me, Saturday night. I apologize. Saturday. No, it was last night. I apologize. Get my dates mixed up. Today's January 5th. Last night, January 4th, 11:39 p.m., Stephen Miller took to X and he posted this. And I think this puts all the pieces together for you. Read along with me. Not long after World War II, the West dissolved its empires and colonies and began sending colossal sums of taxpayer-funded aid to these former territories, despite having already made them far wealthier and more successful. The West opened its borders, a kind of reverse colonization, providing welfare and thus remittances, while extending to these newcomers and their families not only the full franchise, but preferential legal and financial treatment over the native citizenry. The neoliberal experiment at its core has been a long self-punishment of the places and peoples that built the modern world. What does that mean? It means that after World War II, instead of having a robust foreign policy that had U.S. involvement and British involvement, you had your British Empire, and then you had your quasi-American empire. We were never empirical, but we had certain countries where we had vested interest in, and we had large military bases, things like places like the Philippines, etc. After World War II, for the most part, with rare exceptions, we basically withdrew. We said, all right, time to come home. Time to bring all of our interests back to the United States. We've won World War II. We've defeated fascism. We'll go ahead and give economic support and money, because that's what we got. We'll give you money to keep your countries thriving. And when things went in the toilet, and when those nations collapsed, instead of going in and trying to fix it and trying to help it and trying to exert our influence, what did we do? We opened up our borders and said, well, let's just let the people come here. And big business in America was fine with that, because big business could then exploit all that cheap labor, right? So we opened up our borders, and it really started in the 60s in a robust way with the Immigration and Naturalization Act in the late 60s. I think it was 69. Then it got even more robust going into the 70s and 80s. And again, everybody's fat and happy and the economy's great. And that's right. But the next thing you know, you look at the American population, you look at the demographic makeup of our country, we're bringing in people who don't share our values. They become a drain on our society. They become a drain on our resources. And, what did Biden do? Biden, it's a perfect example here with Venezuela. Biden continued Trump's policy that Maduro was indicted, right? He got indicted under Trump, but Biden kept that indictment in place, kept the criminal charges in place, kept the policy of sanctioning Venezuelan oil, kept the policy that Maduro was not the legitimate president of that nation. But instead of doing something, instead of sending American aircraft with bombs and rockets to get him and bring him to justice so the people of Venezuela in the country of Venezuela could thrive, what did Biden do? Biden sent passenger jets, empty passenger jets to Venezuela, loaded them up with a bunch of Venezuelans, and then flew them back here and let them loose in America. And gave them refugee status, gave them asylum. With every dysfunctional country and economy around the world, as Stephen Miller points out here, we have decided that instead of being a colonial power and going and exerting our values and our good governance on those countries, instead, we've left them alone. We've left them go corrupt. We let them get dysfunctional, and we just open the borders and say, anyone who doesn't like it there can come here. How's that working out for us? So if you're trying to make sense of the rules and the principles behind what we're now calling the Don Roe doctrine, I think it's insightful to see from Stephen Miller himself exactly what the philosophy is about what America's role in the world might be. Finally, President Trump, as always, should have the last word.
We don't let them take ships anymore. You know why? We use the same exact missile on them that we use on the drug carriers, and it's very effective.
So
You notice there's nobody capturing ships anymore? Because as they head out to go capture the ship, and the ship doesn't want to fire back because it's very flammable stuff in many cases. And the insurance companies don't want, because they build $1 billion ship, and they don't want anybody firing rockets into the ship. But we're hitting them so hard, and it's very similar. Same missile system. It's called deadly accurate. And do you notice that ships aren't being taken anymore? The pirates are.
That's right. I hadn't thought about
The pirates aren't. Well, no.
No Somali pirates.
It's actually very easy. They head out. We say, guess what? There's pirates. Bing. That's the end of the pirates. The shipping business is coming back because see, these are little things that we're doing, and I'm doing it not just for American ships. I'm doing it worldwide.
So imagine, suddenly there's no threat from Somali pirates because the pirates are out of business or they're sunk to the bottom of the sea, opening up those shipping lanes. And imagine if the Somali government cannot get propped up by the funds that are coming in through corruption and through basically pirating and renegade warfare. That government falls, and suddenly the next thing you know, you've got a better system in place in Somalia. Then we don't have to bring in the Somalis. Tim Walz could even be back in charge of Minnesota. No, I've gone too far. That's never going to happen. These are very interesting times and exciting times and optimistically cautious times as we see the president now finishing up his first year and branching into, a robust foreign policy, to say the least. Most of it focused here in our hemisphere, but also focused on relieving the conditions in these foreign countries that have been allowed to become so dysfunctional and so corrupt and so criminal. And ultimately, those people who have fled those countries to live here, the ultimate goal is to not only stop them from coming here, but to return them home where they belong. All right, that's it for today's show. Thank you for watching. What a busy show it was. I appreciate you all being here on this Monday, first Monday of 2026. Let's get to your Super Chats. I see a very generous number of Super Chats, and I appreciate it. Stumble Boots with a $2 Super Chat. You're cool, my friend. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. What else you got, Kevin? Oh, we lost Kevin. Kevin, you knocked yourself out. Are you okay?
I'm alive. I'm here.
Do you need help? Do we need to we can send Delta there if you need.
Yeah, I would love a Delta Strike Force to extract me right now. That'd be great.
Jeff Depew with the $2 Super Chat. When investigative journalists do their job. Exactly. Investigative journalists do their job, and now Tim Walz is donezo. It's a beautiful thing.
Also, when they do the job of the legacy media.
Yeah, imagine if they had the same budget to work with. Imagine if we had that budget. Thank you, Jeff. Angela, Child of God, $5 Super Chat. I still love that you've got Charlie in there as your avatar. Happy New Year. For those who have been praying for Joe after his stroke, praise God, showing amazing progress in his recovery. Thank you for your prayers. Yes, Angela is one of our angels from the very beginning on this show. Her husband had suffered a stroke. We've been praying, and thank you for reminding us to keep those prayers coming. Thanks, Angela. God bless you. And Joe. Mr. Barnes, $5 Super Chat. Tim Falls. That's great. I'm stealing that. Glorious. I adore my president, cabinet, and fellow patriots. God bless America. Amen, Mr. Burns. Mr. Burns. Angela again with the $2 Super Chat. Nice to have a Secretary of State who actually does the job. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. What a far cry from what we had under Biden and Obama, for that matter. Harry Grafton with a $5 Super Chat. Look at the Pittsburgh Penguins. Wow. I don't know how to feel about that. After Walz dropped out and Ilhan gets deported, will Jacob Fry need to be reprogrammed to speak English again? Listen, we're not capable of such miracles. I wonder who the Republican nominee is going to be up in Minnesota. This is a very interesting time in Minnesota. It's not unprecedented to have a Republican governor, by the way. We had Tim Pawlenty for a couple of terms. Jesse the Body Ventura, I don't think, is a Republican, but he was certainly not a Democrat. Thank you, Harry. Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that. Colleen Daly with a $10 tip. Thank you, Colleen. We appreciate that very much. Jeff Depew, $2 Super Chat. Ask the Venezuelan people if this was a good idea. That's the one thing that the left could not deny. The absolute, and just wait till you see what happens in Iran. Boy, we didn't even get to that today on the show. But the Hezbollah. Why did Hezbollah have a base in Venezuela? Well, you know why. This is a remarkable thing what we're witnessing right now. It reminds me of the fall of the Cold War, actually, Jeff. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Oh, and another $5 super chat from Jeff Depew. American taxpayers should not pay the bill for rebuilding the infrastructure that we built 25 years ago. Definitely oil companies can pay for upgrades. You know, I think that's in the works. I agree with you, Jeff. But also, we're also going to benefit from, we seized 1.9 million barrels of oil from a couple of tankers that were being shipped away illicitly under the sanctions on Venezuela, and the president confirmed we're keeping that. We are seizing some oil. We will profit from it as well through revenues generated from those oil companies, but also we will profit by driving down the global oil prices. I have not checked what it's looking like today, but I mean, you're getting $2.15 gas right now in the Midwest. I mean, it's stunning what's happening, and we benefit from all of that as well. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate the $5. Patty J. Jenkins, $2 super chat. God bless you, Larry, and Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Patty. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And that's a wrap for us here. Kevin, do you have any words of wisdom that you can share with our fine young audience?
Don't eat the yellow snow.
Especially in Minnesota. Do you agree with me that Tim Walz is really just running for president and this is his bold triangulation strategy?
Specifically, no. That's actually something I completely disagree with you on.
I'm just saying it to troll.
I mean, it's definitely funny to muse about, but if Dustin Grage is right that there's serious criminal penalties and he's a trustworthy guy, I have good reason to believe him when he reports that. He's not irresponsible. Then this might be him trying to get out of the way and try and find a landing spot. And some cushy nonprofit board of whatever where he might start a daycare center. I mean,
there's good money in it. I'm thinking of throwing my hat in the ring there. Yeah, maybe. I wonder if he's even going to finish out his term as new revelations come in. But of course, then he'll be a martyr and he'll say, "Oh, this is just political prosecution. They're only going after Tim Walz." But I don't see how they can keep that argument going now that he's not running. It must be really bad for him to suspend or get out of his reelection campaign here. Can't wait to find out what they've got on him. All right, Kevin, thank you for that. Thank you for your insight, and thank you for watching, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. I don't have anything else to plug, I don't think. Nope. Oh, welcome viewers from Two-Way who watched me on the morning meeting this morning. I'll be back on morning meeting Thursday and Friday of this week. In the meantime, my name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry.